In today's episode of the podcast, I'll be sharing with you something I'm knitting, some things I'm reading, and something that my husband and I just finished making that I can't wait to share with you. So if that sounds like just your cozy cup of tea, get comfy and let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the Wool Needles Hands Knitting Podcast. My name is Taylor, and I will be your host. Today's episode is going to be rather short and sweet and really cozy because the things I have to share with you are few, and that's completely okay. I am coming to you kind of in the midst of my day. We're doing some odds and ends around the house, we're doing some cleaning, and we have to go run some errands in a little bit, but I wanted to take the time to sit down with a nice cup of tea, actually inspired by a viewer who sent in this idea for a series of videos, and chat with you fine folks. So thank you so much for being here with me today. I want to get right into it and share with you what I have been knitting since the last time we spoke, which in terms of the knitting podcast format, it's been a couple of weeks. By the way, I am drinking my Bigelow Whispering Wildflowers plus L-theanine tea that I just picked up in my Sloth Knitter coffee mug that you can purchase on the Wool Needles Hands website from the merch shop to help support the channel here, which is greatly appreciated. But this is kind of where I'm feeling, like how I'm feeling right now as a knitter, very slothy, taking my time, and I'm only knitting on one thing, and that is the thing I really want to get into today with you guys. And it's what's behind me right here. Now, some of you know that I have been working on a top-down raglan sweater, and it's been definitely a practice in patience and resilience that I talked about on the last episode of the podcast. That has not been, I've not been working on that. I feel like I was quite over the whole top-down raglan plain stockinette, and you know, this is stockinette for the most part, but we'll talk about that in a minute, thing, that whole look, I guess you could say. And I was knitting that part of the KT Cal, and I am in the process of pulling together my update for the KT Cal over on Patreon. But I just got to this place where I was tired of knitting top-down raglan sweaters, and I wanted to knit something more suitable for summer in a cotton yarn, and I wanted it to be this gorgeous blue cotton yarn that I have been just swooning over since I purchased it and hadn't figured out the right thing to knit with it. And so finally, I just decided this is what I want to knit with, and I wanted to knit the, goodness, off the top of my head, I cannot think for the life of me what the name of this pattern is, but it is the, let me tell you. Yeah, it's just called the Plain Yoke Tee 22 by Les Knit or Len Holmes Samso. Not 100% sure if that's how you pronounce it, but I will pop it up here so you can see it. As soon as I discovered this tee in the Ravelry Hot Right Now a few weeks ago, I knew I wanted to make that, and I wanted to make it in this really gorgeous, I think it comes off as like cobalt blue for you, but it's less cobalt and more, I don't know, it's almost like a light cerulean cobalt, if that makes any sense. But it's just this really gorgeous 100% cotton yarn. It's in the River Run colorway. It's from Knit and Crochet Premium Yarn, which is the Joanne Fabrics like house yarn, if you will. But I really, really love it. It's got such a great texture. It's so lovely in the hand, and I couldn't help just casting onto something that was suitable for summer. And another really lovely, kind of loose fitting, somewhat oversized t-shirt is what I was really going for. And so Gladys is wearing the progress that I have made on that, which is to say that I have not made any progress to speak of on that camel colored top-down raglan because I was just really over it, and I'm really excited about this. So this is where we are with this. I'm going to pull Gladys forward so you can see it. I'm going to share some photos of me trying this on. It is a little oversized intentionally. I wanted it to fit like a comfy kind of, not boyfriend t-shirt, but I wanted it to be comfy and somewhat oversized. And so that's kind of what I was going for here. The gauge I'm getting with this meant that I needed to drop down 2 sizes. So I'm actually knitting the extra small here. That's about a size and a half. I'm knitting the extra small here to make up for the fact that my gauge is off. I'm knitting to a larger gauge than what's required, but I'm loving where it's going so far. I'm going to taper the waist down a little, which is kind of hard to show here. Gladys is significantly smaller than me. I think she's like, I mean, she just, trust me, this Gladys is a lot smaller than me. But as I do the body of the sweater, I'm going to bring it in and kind of shape it so it comes in a little bit more, and then, you know, finish it off. So it is going to kind of have some waist shaping going on there. And then it has a really nice circular yoke here, and the sleeves are really pretty, and I just love the color. I also love the neckline. This rolled neckline sits on my neck nicely and fits really well. So this is where I'm at with it so far. Definitely looking a little on the oversized side with Gladys, but that's because she's just really tiny. So there is that. So that is my plain yoke tee. I want to pull it off here. Well, you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to show you one of the things I really love about this. So this has some really nice strategically placed, I don't know if you call that strategically placed, or just evenly placed increases that create this gentle texture in the yoke of the sweater. Do you see that there? It kind of radiates out from the collar. How lovely is that? So pretty. It gives it a little bit of visual interest and just makes it look special. It has like a special element to it that's really visually appealing. So that is what I am working on right now, and I am crazy about it. It's a great one to work on while I'm reading. Now I have, if you watched the last episode of the podcast, I talked to you about how I've really picked up steam in the reading department, and I purchased what's called a book seat. So you place the book here, you see? And then you tighten the drawstring, and this plastic piece that you can see through holds your pages open like this. And then this sits on your lap and you read. And it's out in my chair in the living room right now, but I'll pop a picture up so you can see it here. I actually took a little video of me using it, but it's a great place for me to prop my book in the book seat and read and knit at the same time. So I have mastered reading and knitting stockinette stitch at the same time. And this design is great for that because there's lots of just plain knitting in between those increases. So you can start right away. There's no ribbing, okay, because this is a rolled collar. So you can start right away just with stockinette stitch, and in between the different sections where you're increasing, you can read and knit at the same time if you happen to be able to do that. And I absolutely love it. So I'm finding that I'm getting quite a bit of knitting done and quite a bit of reading done, as you will see in just a moment, because of that lovely book seat. That's a great way to hold my book in place, or if you're using a Kindle or a tablet while you knit. And I'm loving that. So I'm loving this. It's all I'm knitting right now. I feel like I'm kind of going through this finding myself moment, trying to really figure out what's inspiring me, what I want on my needles. And this is just kind of getting me through that little, I don't know, dip in my momentum, if you will. I know a lot of us have seasons to our creativity. I've talked about this before, and you kind of tend to have these like ins and outs where you kind of are in between different seasons, these liminal spaces in between seasons where you're just not really motivated to work on anything in particular. You find that you work on one project pretty monogamously, and yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. So that's my knitting. I will be doing an update video over on Patreon for all of the All Access members on Patreon, kind of giving you an idea of where I'm at with the KT Cal, where other folks are at with the KT Cal, and just some other thoughts that I have. Plus, I wanted to share a little bit more of an in-depth look over on that Patreon update of something I'm going to share a photo of with you here that my husband and I just finished, and I'm so excited about it. Okay, so I'm not going to go into all of the ins and outs of how we did this. I'll save that for that Patreon update as promised to those folks over on Patreon. But this is what my husband and I just created for our home. It is our first ever little free library. And you guys, it is so adorable. I love it. I'm so excited because our little placard that goes on the front of it is in the mail on its way to us with our charter number, and we are official stewards of our own free little library. And as you may be able to see here, it was actually repurposed, or we repurposed something to create our free library. We didn't use a kit, we didn't build it out completely. We actually had this rolling ice box, kind of like a vintage inspired rolling ice chest on legs, if you will, that we never really used, and we wanted to repurpose it into our free little library, and that's exactly what we did, and this is what we came up with, and I couldn't be happier. I love it so much. It's out in front of our house right now. It has books in it. We have some signage on it. There's some laminated, really cute flyers that we have hung in our neighborhood, letting people know where they can come and find the free little library. All right, so here's our library. The kids are playing basketball right now, but I wanted to come in here and just show you. So this is we have a little umbrella attached to it because it gets warm here. And we have our little information placard here that tells how to use it. And then we're going to get the actual charter placard, and it's going to go on the front here. There's our books inside. This lifts up and we've got some books in there. And a little flag in our lawn to tell people about our free little library. We've got some bougainvilleas planted down here, and not only this light, but we have like this little solar light here, so when it gets dark, the lights come on inside. I don't know if you can see. It's kind of bright right now. So yeah, there it is. And our cute little umbrella. I love it so much. We've had several people stop while walking their dogs or just out on a walk, and I love it. I'm so excited. The kids are so excited about it. They got really excited going through their books and finding some books that they wanted to put into the free library. So if you would like to see more about how we built this out, how we went from it being an ice chest to a free little library, definitely head over to Patreon, become an all access member. This video is coming down in the next 3 days. I'm going to be getting it up onto Patreon. But yeah, I'm really proud of it. I love that we have one now. And the idea of being our own little stewards for our free little library is it just melts my heart. I love it. I love it so much. Speaking of books and reading, I know so many of you are avid readers, and when I talked on, like, I don't know, 4 videos ago, whatever the last actual podcast was, where I shared with you that I had been reading, I received so many comments below that video of folks sharing their enthusiasm for reading and kind of also mentioning that they're embarking on the same journey. They're kind of like re-engaging with reading as a hobby in general, but I've been really getting lost in reading, and it has been incredibly good for me, for just my mind, for my spirit, for so many aspects of my life. And that sounds really like preachy and emotional, and I don't mean it to sound like that. There are folks out there who just don't read, and that's fine. Like, this is not me telling you like everybody should read. You should do what makes you feel good. But if you happen to be in a place where you used to read and you haven't picked up a book in a while and you just feel like, I don't know how to get back into it again, let me tell you that no matter what book you pick up, just try to get back into it, because it has done so much for me these last several weeks. And I'm so thankful that I found reading again, and that my husband and I have kind of really picked it back up again. We spend time reading as a family. We read in our downtime. The TV is on far less often, and it wasn't really on a lot to begin with, but when we sit down to just take a load off or whatever, we don't immediately turn on like YouTube or whatever. We sit down, we put on some nice music, and in particular, this YouTube channel, which I'm obsessed with, it's like Candy Music Room, and they play like really relaxing jazz music with like nice imagery in the background. That's what we put on, and we read. And the kids will read, or they'll, play, or they'll play chess. But this, I'm just so into it right now. So I want to share with you guys what I have read since we spoke last time. And I'm not going to give you like the whole review of every single book. I'm just going to kind of quick and dirty go through it. If you want to read my reviews for any of these books, find me on Goodreads. I'll link to my Goodreads down below, but all of that stuff is over there. Okay, so since we last spoke, I finished What Angels Fear by C.S. Harris. I was reading this at that time. Love this. If you like a good series, kind of like a detective vibe, something that's set during like the early Regency period, this is fantastic. It's dark, it's gritty. There are some things in here that are hard to read about. When it comes to like trigger warnings and all of that kind of thing, I find myself to be rather sensitive to certain things, and this book was fine. There's a little bit of spice in there, you know, like sexy time stuff, which, you know, just letting you know it's in there. I don't mind it. What can I say? I love this. It's a whole, this guy, there's so many books with this character. She has written like, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, but it's like a treasure trove. Loved this. What Angels Fear by C.S. Harris. So good. My husband and I, we've gotten on this kick where at night we will either like watch a show or we'll read together. So we just finished What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, and this is a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's Fall of the House of Usher. This was so good. I loved this. If you know the story Fall of the House of Usher, you know how creepy and dark and dreary that story is. This did it so much justice. I can't even tell you. It was like reading the Poe version again, but getting more from it. So you get all the benefits of this amazing story that Poe created with like what feels like a deeper dive, if you will. This is really good. I love her writing. I loved this. Oh God, it was so creepy. And it's a quick read. It's a novella. I think it's sitting here at 160, what is it? 157 pages. No. I'm sorry. 51, because this was the beginning. No. 157. You guys, it's so good. I love it. Okay, and then I started reading the Veronica Speedwell series. This is A Curious Beginning. Okay, I'm not going to go into great detail about what this is about, but I will tell you, if you are fans of Miss Scarlet and the Duke on Masterpiece Theater, and you like mystery, and you like, you know, just like a really fun, quirky, I don't want to say romance because it's not really up front, it's kind of like back, you know, it's like it's underpinned in there, but you like a quirky relationship between two people that you kind of know is bordering on like pent up romantic frustration. This is so good. I love this. It's like Miss Scarlet and the Duke meets like Mary Poppins meets like Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Dolittle. Okay, I love it. So I finished this one. And then I found this at a thrift store for $4. This sucker is in brand new condition. Hardcover book. Like, it is in brand new condition. I got it for $4. It is The Maid by Nita Prose. Okay, so this one, I left a very in-depth review. Well, I mean, it's a long review. I don't know how in-depth it is. It's not like a summary or anything like that. But it's a rather long review of my thoughts on this book. I enjoyed it. It's a detective story, not a detective story. It's like a mystery kind of sleuthy type story with a really unconventional main character who is very kind of neurodivergent, if you will, and she has to figure out kind of this crime that she has been tangled up in, and she's a maid in a really swanky hotel. That's what I'll tell you. You can read my review on Goodreads. I had fun reading this. It's a fun read. Is it high literary fiction? I mean, no, but it's fun and it's cozy, and I really enjoyed it. So I finished that one as well. Then I moved on to something new. One of the books I'm reading right now is the 7th book in the series. It's by C.J. Sansom. So some of you may know that I'm really a big fan of C.J. Sansom and his series, his Shard Lake series. And I just discovered that over on Hulu, there is a new TV, like a series that you can watch called Shard Lake.
Why, in this house of God, do I smell secrets and fear?
We just finished the whole series. It was so good. It's based on the first book in this series. This is called Lamentation, and it is, which book is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, this is the 6th book. So Lamentation by C.J. Sansom. I picked it back up again. I'm not too far. I think I'm only like 20-something% of the way through. Loving this. King Henry VIII. Cromwell's not really involved in this one anymore, but there's some things going on with Queen Catherine Parr, and she has just written Lamentation of a Sinner. And in this book, the book Lamentation of a Sinner that Catherine Parr actually publishes in history. The Lamentation of a Sinner is a book that was written by the Queen at that time. Anyway, in this story, it's stolen, which doesn't bode well for her, considering that King Henry VIII is kind of having a lot more of, Catholic sympathies at this time, and that book is very much kind of reformist and Protestant in nature. So it's just this whole thing. Lots of intrigue, super interesting. The history is fantastic. Yeah, I'm loving that. So that is part of that CJ Sansom Shard Lake series. And I had been reading that for a little while, so that was kind of just getting back into something I had already started. But then somebody recommended for me in the comments of that last podcast where I started talking about various things I was reading. I can't remember if it was the last podcast where I talked about The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I can't remember, but somebody recommended the book by Daphne du Maurier called Rebecca. I'm so thankful that somebody recommended this. And then it was funny because it was like after that person made that recommendation, I had seen a few other book reviewers talking about it here on YouTube, about this book. And then I did some digging, realized Alfred Hitchcock made a movie based on this book that I wasn't aware of. And I tend to think of myself as a rather big Alfred Hitchcock fan. And then I also didn't know that she wrote The Birds, which is a fantastic Alfred Hitchcock movie. It's not my favorite, but it's a great one. I didn't know that. And then I also didn't know that she wrote the book Jamaica Inn, which is a show on PBS right now that I started watching, but I haven't gotten very far into it, but I really liked what I had seen so far. This whole thing, whatever. This book, Rebecca, is such a delicious slow burn of a book, from the posh British language and like the way that they talk and the dialogue, to just what's happening in the story, to the way that these characters are developing, to the fact that you just can't decide if there's anybody here with any redeeming qualities, but yet you find yourself rooting for someone wholeheartedly. I don't want to say it's dark, but it's kind of twisted and murky, and I don't know how best, it's wild. I love this book. It was a slow, sizzling simmer of a burn until page 300, and on page 301, it explodes and the momentum completely picks up. And I don't mean that like the beginning of the book was slow. That's not what I mean. It was definitely intriguing and captivating, but it was just like the slow sizzling burn, and then everything just kind of boils over after page 300, like immediately on page 301. And I'm telling you, I have read so much today of this, and it's flying now, and I love it. So whoever recommended me read Rebecca, thank you so much. I love this book. I cannot wait to watch both the Alfred Hitchcock version of this and the version that came out in 2020. I'm going to have like a little view-a-thon with my husband, and I can't wait, but I'm loving that. So that, I will be done with that by today, if not by tomorrow morning with my coffee, and I can't wait. And I have a few books that are on my to-be read list, or books that I want to read after this. I'm not really sure where I want to go next. I don't know if I want to read the next of that C.S. Harris series, which is the author that wrote this one, or if I want to read the next Veronica Speedwell. I'm not exactly sure. The world is my oyster, you guys, but I am loving this whole journey of reading, and it's just great. I love it so much. What are you guys reading right now? What are you knitting right now? How's your mojo in either of those things? I know some of us are really getting back into reading, and their knitting mojo kind of wanes, and that is so completely normal. But yeah, I'd be curious to know. Thank you for listening to me gab on about this. I will tell you, and I probably shouldn't say anything because maybe it's just like jinxing it, but my husband and I have been watching a lot of, what do they call it? BookTube. Okay. It's like the knitting podcast realm here on YouTube, but it's for people that read books. And we've gotten into lots of these like booktubers. One in particular, and this is crazy. It's not crazy. It's just interesting. His name, I believe, is it Nick? Maybe it's Nick. I can't remember, but he hosts a channel called Books Are Sick.
I am Nick. This is week 21 of Books Being Sick.
And he's, in our age bracket, and he just got in our meaning my husband and my age bracket, and he just got into reading again, and he talks about reading and gives some book reviews, and we love him. My husband loves listening to him. He happens to be the husband of Lindsay, who is the dyer of Hello Stella yarn. So if you're familiar with Hello Stella, she's an indie yarn dyer. It turns out that this guy that we started watching, I think his name is Nick, he has the channel Books Are Sick, happens to be her husband, which is crazy, small world. But anyway, all of this booktube stuff, my husband and I have actually kind of toyed with the idea of starting like a little booktube podcast, he and I, where we sit down together and talk about the books that we're reading. Because, you know, that's what you do. When you really get into something, you think about doing something like that. So, I don't know. Just don't take that too seriously. It's something we're toying with. It would be a lot of fun. We kind of have ideas of how we would do it. And he and I get on really well. And we would, obviously, but we really do. And doing something like that would be a lot of fun. Okay, I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I have got things I need to do, but it was so nice being here with you guys today. I hope you're having a great weekend. And let me know, what are you reading? Give me some book recommendations. I want to know which direction to go next. Lord knows I have enough books listed in my Goodreads to be read list, but, you know, I love getting new recommendations. So drop them down below, and I will see you guys on the next episode of the Midweek Ramble, which comes out on Wednesdays. Until then, happy knitting, happy making, happy whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, be well, and I will see you soon. Bye.